Hey guys, wanted to do a quick short video. At SLT on Monday night, we wrestled through kind of some core values for the church, some kind of, values that kind of define us, that unite us. And we kind of came back with some language that we'd worked through previously with Gavin. And it was language that we kind of found helpful. Some of you may have been in a meeting when we talked about that, but we didn't kind of spread it throughout the church. But we really feel over the next few months particularly and going forward, having some core values that unite you are very, very important. And so we're going to be teaching these to the church, but we realized that you guys over the next few weeks are going to be preparing material to teach at Heart and Soul Nights, and we need you to be able to kind of impart these values. To be honest, it would be helpful to have another meeting, but hey, you're all busy, I'm busy, we're all busy together. So we just felt it'd be easier just to articulate, just in a quick 10-minute video. Andrew's going to email it out. Just a 10-minute video to articulate these values, okay? And this is just at the start of it. I understand this is full. I wish we could discuss it more, but hey. Now, these are values. You guys, many of you have done kind of Bible college. You understand that values, kind of organizational values, are specific to the organization. So as you highlight them, they're specific. So these values that we're talking about, they don't encompass everything about Christianity. We're assuming that the kind of broader values are assumed. So the values aren't as broad as Bible believing. Of course we're Bible believing, Holy Spirit led. Of course we're Holy Spirit led. The value of love. Oh my goodness me, that should be us. The value of grace. So we're not talking about broader values like that. What we're doing is talking about specific values to us. So when we say, hey, when you teach, carry these values, we're talking about, hey, in order to kind of teach or in order to minister at the hub, everything in the hub needs to carry in some way these 5 values, okay? So, we're not saying it's the only way to do church. We're not saying it's the only way to be church. Come on, we're more mature than that. But what we're saying is this is how, as a community, we are going to be church together. And hey, I'll go through this quickly. And what it means is this, is that those of us who minister, those of us who kind of get public platform, those of us who kind of are influencing a large majority of people, we need to not just carry these values. We need to carry them. They need to be a part of who we are. But actually, we need to kind of express these values too. In our own style, in our own way. God has made us all unique, but we need to kind of imbibe and kind of impart these core values. So what are the 5 values? Maybe Andrew will make them come up behind me or on the left or something. I don't know. You can do all that, Andrew, yeah? First value is pretty obvious considering our vision statement. The first value is passionate. Kind of look at a thesaurus. Fierce, fervent, committed, enthusiastic, zealous, I love that word, keen and intense. It's about what we communicate coming across as passionate. It's about the content of us being passionate. It's about us being passionate for God, passionate for people, passionate about the church, passionate about the world. And I know this, all of you are passionate people. I know that, I know you personally. But the next kind of level is our passion needs to show. We need to kind of impart that passion, especially when we're teaching people. Now, do we all impart that in different ways? Of course, we're all different personalities. We all have different kind of angles, different ways of communicating. And all of that is perfectly fine. But one of the boundaries we need to do is make sure that within our kind of style, within our personal individual personality, we are coming across as passionate about what we're talking about. So the way to measure that one when you're preparing is, does my teaching carry a sense of passion? So I'd really encourage you with that one. Second thing, not a surprise considering our vision statement, intentional. Passionate and intentional. Here and here, perhaps, depending on what Andrew edits. Intentional, you know what it means. It means about being on purpose. I looked up a thesaurus, the wonderful internet. It's about being designed, considered, purposed, and planned. And so everything in our church, we want it to be passionate and intentional in everything. But when it comes to our teaching in Heart and Soul Considerations or Sundays, we're not just having a chat. We're not just sharing a nice little thought. We're not just, we believe the Holy Spirit leads us. We invite the Holy Spirit to lead us, and just kind of as we're preparing and even as we're changing things on the fly. But we're not kind of getting up there just to entertain people. We're not getting there just to kind of share kind of our little bugbear or what's on our heart. We are intentionally planning and teaching. Now, looking at the subjects that you guys have worked through with Pies, I mean, my goodness, fantastic. Talk about intentional subjects. Seriously, spoke to a few people who've said it was a good meeting. Thank you so much for kind of that commitment and wrestling that stuff through. But we need to make sure, using those subjects, that there's a clear purpose to this teaching, that this will make a difference to the world. And we need to communicate that to people, that this is intentional, that this will help them live for Jesus. One of my favorite verses in Timothy, I think it's 1 Timothy something, top of my head. Maybe 1 Timothy 4:16. That could be completely wrong. But I think it says something like this. Guard your life and doctrine closely, Paul says to Timothy. In doing so, you will save yourself. You will save both yourself and your hearers. It's about that intentionality. So not just everything in the church being intentional, but everything in what we communicate being intentional and that being communicated. Thirdly, the third kind of core value that we're focusing on, passionate, intentional, and then relevant, okay? Everything that we do in the church needs to be relevant to people. Now, that's such a broad concept and we can't unpack that, but it's about being relevant to the people that we have and relevant to the people that we're trying to reach. So when it comes to Heart and Soul Nights, our teaching needs to be relevant to the people that we are teaching. Of course, we know that that's our drive person, isn't it? Now, that's not all about being contemporary, although being contemporary, as we know, is part of being relevant. But it's about that kind of next level of, is what I'm saying relevant to people? And more than that, because we have to be carriers, not just, we don't just carry it on the inside, we have to communicate it, is, am I making it clear to people why it's relevant to them? I need to make that clear. Of course, that doesn't always mean dumbing things down. That doesn't always mean, my goodness, making things so kind of just simple and not going deeper. It's about that whole thing of going, is this relevant to people? Is this relevant to their lives? So when you prepare, think through, is it passionate? Is it intentional? Is it relevant? And then as you prepare to deliver, think about your delivery. Is it all those things? The fourth one is this, engaging. So passionate, intentional, relevant, and engaging. Now, at first thought, and we wrestled this through a little bit, relevant, engaging sound pretty similar. But in fact, something can be incredibly relevant to somebody, but maybe the delivery of it isn't very engaging at all. Or, and we all know a lot of preachers like this, you can get preachers that are incredibly engaging, but actually afterwards, when you think through what they said, really not that relevant and really not that helpful to people, but everybody goes away buzzing. Now, we need to have both. We need to have messages. Well, we need everything in our church to be engaging in some way. We'll talk about it with Connect Group leaders too, but particularly when it comes to teaching as well, we need to have teaching that is engaging. Now, does that mean that everybody needs to be crazy extrovert and walking around the stage? No, absolutely not. However, we need to make our best efforts to be engaging, to draw people in. We don't want to kind of use our style as an excuse to just kind of be unengaging. None of us would do that. But some of us will have to work harder on that than others. And that's kind of a thing. I understand that's a hard thing for some of us. But engaging doesn't necessarily mean extrovert. Come on, we're more screwed. I have our heads screwed on more than that. Engaging is about people naturally leaning into you as you are communicating. You're using illustrations and stories. You're creating kind of language that helps people understand the scriptures, and you're kind of, there's a flow to it. It draws people in. So I know you will work hard on that, but let's make sure as we look at our preparation, our delivery, our content as well, everything is engaging. People naturally want to lead in and kind of engage with you to the best of our ability. And then the last one, which is a great one, is faith-filled. Okay, we need everything that we do in the church to be passionate, intentional, relevant, engaging, and faith-filled. Now, faith-filled is different to faithful. Semantically, probably not. But what we mean by it is we're not just celebrating being faithful and faithfully doing our little bit, because faithfulness is kind of an assumed value. We need to be faithful. Jesus was faithful. It's our calling. But being faith-filled is about that next level of actually being full of faith and trust and belief. It's about our whole kind of mindset being underwritten by a confident trust and faith in God, a belief that God can do great things, a belief that God can do more than we can imagine. And yes, often, not all the time, but often that will come out in a more positive sense. But I do believe we need to be a positive church, not positive thinking, but positive believing, not just because it's a nice idea to be happy clappy, but actually because we have faith that we believe God can heal. We have faith that the teaching that we are bringing can bring insight. So as we go into preparing, we need to have faith that the subject that we're bringing will transform people's lives. And as we have faith as we prepare, that faith will come out as we deliver. So what does that mean? That means no room for cynicism. That means no room for sarcasm. Well, sarcasm is a sensitive one, but certainly not cynicism. The negativity that is funny to Brits. including myself, who can be quite sarcastic, there's a sensitivity of sarcasm is funny, but actually cynicism. No, we're faith believing. We believe the best in God. We believe the best in people. And we actually believe in this thing. And I believe that if we as communicators carry that faith inside of us and allow that to kind of flow out, keeping our preparation kind of positive and believing and moving forward, and keeping our kind of delivery kind of faith-filled, then actually that kind of imbibes that. So, conclusion, 5 values, okay? Let me say this. Be you. Be you. Our cultural values are not to kind of get us all to be the same style. In fact, I heard someone recently talk about football, and this really helped me. Said, if you've got the Brazilian football team and you've got the Dutch football team, they both play completely different styles of football, but there are boundaries and there are parameters. So they still both have to get the ball in the net to score a goal. If the ball goes out, you've got to throw it in. If someone gets fouled, there's a free kick. There are boundaries and parameters, and within that, sorry, my phone's ringing. How embarrassing. Luckily, it's just a video to you guys. But here's the thing. There are parameters and boundaries that are kind of that everybody has to obey. The Brazilian football team, incredibly creative, and some of you are that. The Dutch football team, kind of more logical, more focused, more kind of this is what we're going to do. And some of us will be more like that. But the parameters, the boundaries are important. So we need to all imbibe and carry. And as we communicate, we need to communicate these values in our teaching. Now, some of these values will be harder for us than others. So some people will find, because of their style perhaps, that engaging is harder for them. They have to kind of work harder at that. Or perhaps passionate, maybe that's better. If you're a bit more laid back, you're all passionate on the inside, but some of us will find it hard to communicate that passion more than others. So for some of us, we're going to need to work on that. But for others of us, passionate and kind of engaging is not too bad, but actually making it relevant is perhaps the harder one, making it relevant to people and working hard on that. Perhaps that's the journey. Some of us perhaps need to work on that whole faith-filled thing a bit more, and that's okay. But I would say this, completely be you. Please don't take this any other way. However, let's make sure that together we are all carrying these 5 values. We'll go through them again in a second, but we as a senior leadership team believe in you. Otherwise, we wouldn't have asked you to do this teaching, to be part of this team. We really do believe in you and believe you've got great gifting and potential, and not just potential, but fulfilled potential now. I mean, seriously, wow, what a great bunch of people we have in this church. But let's make sure that as we are all growing in our gifting and building the body, even though we all have different giftings and personalities, we're all still pulling in the same direction. And we believe these cultural values will help us to align in all that. So let me encourage you, when you're preparing, when you're delivering, when you're thinking about Heart and Soul nights and the teaching, thank you so much for the hard work you're doing. We really are. It's just fantastic. It really does equip the church, as we believe is our calling. And so these 5 values, which may or may not be here, the values are passionate. Let's be passionate. Intentional. Let's be intentional with what we're doing. Relevant. Let's make our teaching as relevant as we can to people so it helps them. For engaging, let's make sure whatever our style, we are engaging people in. We are passionate and engaging people in. And then 5, let's be faith-filled. That deep down trust and faith that comes out in belief, positive belief in a God that we believe is worth following. Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. Love you all. And got any questions, grab me, probably not on a Sunday. Pop me an email or something, or give me a ring. Love you all. Cheers.